Story lovers, welcome back to part 2. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button. And hey, y'all absolutely proved part 1 was worth it with those comments. So I already know part 2 is going to hit just as hard. Drop a comment and let me know what you think as we go. All right, let's get straight into it. Sunday arrived with the inevitability of a tidal wave, and Temalola found herself standing outside the Kong family estate in Gangnam, clutching a box of expensive fruit like a shield. "Stop fidgeting," Ji-hoon said beside her, adjusting his tie. "I'm not fidgeting. You've repositioned that box 4 times in the last 30 seconds. It's heavy. It's fruit. Expensive fruit." She glanced at the imposing gate, then at him. "Your mother already likes me. Why am I nervous? Because liking you as my assistant and accepting you as my girlfriend are 2 entirely different things." He pressed the intercom button. "And because my mother is terrifying." The gate swung open with ominous silence. The Kong estate was exactly what Temalola expected. Traditional Korean architecture mixed with obvious wealth. Stone pathways wound through manicured gardens. A koi pond reflected the afternoon sun. The main house was a sprawling hanok with modern additions that somehow didn't clash. Ji-hoon's mother appeared at the entrance before they reached the door. Mrs. Kong was elegant in the way that came from generations of breeding and iron discipline. Her hanbok was silk, her hair perfectly styled, her smile warm but assessing. She was shorter than Temalola, but her presence filled the entire courtyard. "Yama," Ji-hoon said, bowing slightly. "Ah, my son finally remembers he has a mother." Mrs. Kang's eyes shifted to Temalola, and her smile widened. "And you brought Temalola. Come, come. No need for formality." Temalola bowed anyway, offering the fruit. "Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Kong." "Mrs. Kong," she sked, taking the box and handing it to a waiting housekeeper. "Call me Iamoni. We're family now, aren't we?" The words hung in the air. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Iama. Don't Iama me. You think I don't know?" Mrs. Kong linked her arm through Temalola's, steering her toward the house. "3 months you've been together. The entire social circle is talking. Mrs. Park saw you too at that French restaurant. Mrs. Choi's daughter works at your building and says you're inseparable." "We're discreet," Ji-hoon said, following them. "Discreet." His mother laughed. "You bought her a car. A practical sedan for commuting. A Mercedes. Black. With custom interior." She patted Temalola's arm. "He thinks I don't have eyes everywhere." Inside, the house was stunning. Traditional wooden beams crossed modern lighting. Antique furniture sat beside contemporary art. Everything screamed old money and careful taste. Mrs. Kong led them to the kitchen, a massive space that combined traditional and modern elements. Ingredients covered the counter: Napa cabbage, radishes, garlic, ginger, gochugaru. "Today," Mrs. Kong announced, "we make kimchi. The Kong family recipe, passed down 4 generations." Temalola glanced at Ji-hoon, who shrugged helplessly. "Iamoni, I should mention I've never made kimchi before." "Perfect. Then you learn the right way first." She tied an apron around her waist, then handed one to Temalola. "Ji-hoon, go find your father. Men are useless in the kitchen anyway." "I'm excellent in the kitchen," Ji-hoon protested. "You can boil water and order takeout." "Not the same thing." She made shooing motions. "Go. We have girl talk to do." Ji-hoon caught Temalola's eye, a silent question. "Are you okay?" She nodded, and he left, though his reluctance was obvious. The moment he was gone, Mrs. Kang's demeanor shifted. Not hostile, but sharper. More focused. "Wash your hands," she said. "Then we talk while we work." Temalola obeyed, scrubbing her hands thoroughly before joining Mrs. Kong at the counter. The older woman was already separating cabbage leaves with practiced efficiency. "You're Nigerian," Mrs. Kong said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. My father is Yoruba, my mother is Igbo." "And you came to Korea for?" "University. Seoul National University. International business. I stayed after graduation." "No family here?" "No, Iamoni." Mrs. Kong nodded, handing her a cabbage. "Salt the leaves. Like this, see? Not too much, not too little. Even coverage." They worked in silence for several minutes. Temalola followed instructions, hyper-aware that this was a test. Every movement was being judged. "My son," Mrs. Kong said finally, "is not an easy man." Temalola chose her words carefully. "No, he's not. He's controlling." demanding. He has a temper he inherited from his father. Yes. He's also involved in businesses that concern me. Temalola's hands stilled on the cabbage. This was dangerous ground. I know what my husband built, Mrs. Kong continued, her voice quiet. I know what my son maintains. The legitimate companies are successful, yes. But the other things. She looked up, meeting Temalola's eyes. You know this too, don't you? There was no point in lying. Yes, Iamoni. And you stay anyway. Yes. Why? Temalola set down the cabbage and faced her fully. Because he's more than what he does. Because he's brilliant and controlled and tries so hard to keep the darkness away from people he cares about. Because when he looks at me, I see both sides. The dangerous man and the one who remembers my coffee order. And I chose both. Mrs. Kong studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. Good answer. She resumed working. The wrong answer would have been I can change him, or I don't see that side. Both are lies women tell themselves. I don't want to change him. Smart girl. She began mixing the spice paste, gochujang, garlic, ginger, fish sauce. My husband, Jihoon's father, was like him. Dangerous. Powerful. I knew what he was when I married him. I chose it anyway, like you. Do you regret it? Every day. The words were matter of fact. And not at all. Love is complicated when the man you love has blood on his hands. She looked at Temalola again. Are you prepared for that complication? I don't know, Temalola admitted. But I'm prepared to try. Mrs. Kong nodded, apparently satisfied. Then I'll teach you to make kimchi properly. A Kong family woman should know these things. The tension eased. They worked together, Mrs. Kong sharing stories of Jihoon as a child. Stubborn even then, always trying to control every situation, once reorganizing his entire kindergarten class because their system was inefficient. When Jihoon returned an hour later with his father, they found the kitchen filled with containers of freshly made kimchi and two women laughing over something. Mr. Kong was an older, harder version of his son. Same sharp eyes, same controlled movements, same aura of barely contained danger. He shook Temalola's hand with surprising gentleness. So you're the woman who finally cracked my son's armor, he said in accented English. I just organized his filing system, Mr. Kong. He laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Practical. I like her, Jihoon. Keep this one. Dinner was traditional Korean, galbi, japchae, various banchan, and of course kimchi. Conversation flowed easily. Mrs. Kong shared embarrassing childhood stories. Mr. Kong discussed business, carefully skirting anything illegal, but clearly testing Temalola's intelligence. She held her own, discussing market trends and international expansion with the confidence of someone who'd spent 3 years managing a CEO's empire. As they left, Mrs. Kong pressed containers of kimchi into Temalola's hands. Come back next month, she said. We'll make doenjang. In the car, Jihoon was quiet. Your mother is terrifying, Temalola said finally. I warned you. She knew everything. About us. About your business. She always knows everything. He glanced at her. She liked you. Really liked you. If she didn't, we would have been out of there in 20 minutes. How can you tell? She gave you the kimchi recipe. She's never done that with anyone before. Temalola looked at the containers in her lap, something warm blooming in her chest. Your father seemed nice too. Jihoon's laugh was dark. My father once broke a man's arm for insulting my mother. Nice is relative in my family. Runs in the family then. He reached over, lacing his fingers through hers. Are you having second thoughts? About what? About this. Us. My family. My world. Temalola squeezed his hand. Not even slightly. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. Good. Because you're mine now. My mother said so. Is that how it works? In my family? Yes. She laughed, and the sound filled the car with something light and hopeful. Outside, Seoul's lights blurred past, and tomorrow would bring new complications. But tonight, driving through the city with her hand in his and kimchi containers in her lap, Temalola felt like she'd just been accepted into something bigger than herself. Something dangerous and beautiful and entirely hers. Monday morning shattered the peaceful bubble of Sunday dinner. Temalola arrived at the office at 7:30 a.m. to find Jihoon already there, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the three men in expensive suits sitting in the conference room, their body language screaming danger. She recognized one, Tae-min, Ji-hoon's second-in-command. The other two were strangers, but they had the same edge, the same predatory stillness. Ji-hoon saw her through the glass, and his expression hardened. He said something sharp to the men, then walked out, closing the conference room door behind him. "Go home," he said when he reached her desk. Temalola set down her bag. "Excuse me. Take the day off. Go shopping. Go to a spa. I don't care. Just leave. What's going on?" "Nothing that concerns you." She crossed her arms. "Men with guns under their jackets are sitting in our conference room. That concerns me." "How do you?" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "You're too observant for your own good." "It's literally my job to be observant. Not about this." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Temalola, I'm serious. There's a situation I need to handle, and I need you nowhere near it." "What kind of situation?" "The kind that involves people like them." He jerked his head toward the conference room. "The kind that could get very ugly very quickly." Before she could respond, Tae-min emerged from the conference room. He bowed slightly to Temalola, respectful but wary, then addressed Ji-hoon in rapid Korean. Whatever he said made Ji-hoon's expression go cold. "How many?" Ji-hoon asked in English, probably for her benefit. "6 confirmed. Maybe more." Tae-min glanced at Temalola, clearly uncomfortable discussing this in front of her. "They hit the Gangnam warehouse last night. Took everything. Everything. 40 million won in product. Killed 2 of our people." The words hung in the air like smoke. Temalola felt ice slide down her spine. This wasn't vague phone calls or coded language anymore. This was real violence. Real death. Ji-hoon's hand curled into a fist. "The Busan Group? We think so. They're making a move. Tell the others I'll be there in an hour." Ji-hoon's voice was flat, emotionless. The CEO voice was gone, replaced by something colder, darker, and double security on all our locations. If they hit one warehouse, they might hit others. Tae-min bowed and returned to the conference room. Temalola realized she'd been holding her breath. 2 people died. "Yes. People who worked for you. Yes. And you're going to." She stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. "Handle it," Ji-hoon said simply. "I'm going to handle it." "How?" His eyes met hers, and for the first time since Busan, she saw the full weight of what he was. Not the controlled businessman. Not the man who bought her cars and kissed her in parking garages. But the crime boss who commanded an empire built on fear. "You don't want to know," he said quietly. He was right. She didn't. But she couldn't unknow what she'd just heard either. "I'm staying," she said. "Temalola, I'm staying and doing my job. You have 3 legitimate meetings today that I scheduled. The board presentation at 10. Lunch with the investment group at noon. The conference call with Tokyo at 3. Cancel them." "No." They stared at each other. The conference room door opened again, and the 2 strangers emerged. They looked at Temalola with open assessment, like they were calculating her threat level. Ji-hoon stepped between them and her. The movement was subtle but clear. "Wait in my office," he told them. They obeyed without question. When they were alone again, Ji-hoon exhaled slowly. "You need to understand something. The men in that room, they're killers. They've done things that would give you nightmares. And right now, I need to be one of them. Not your boyfriend. Not the CEO. The other thing. I know. Do you?" He moved closer, and she could see the tension in every line of his body. "Because once you see that side of me, really see it, you can't unsee it. And I won't blame you if you walk away." Temalola reached up, touching his face. "I'm not walking away. You say that now. I say it always." She held his gaze. "Go handle your business. I'll handle the office. That's how this works." Something flickered in his expression. Gratitude? Relief? Fear? He kissed her, hard and desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. Then he pulled away and walked toward his office without looking back. The rest of the day was surreal. Temalola went through the motions. Rescheduled meetings, fielded calls, managed crises. But her mind kept drifting to Ji-hoon and those men and the 2 people who died in a warehouse. He left with them at 8:45 a.m., didn't say goodbye, just walked out with Tae-min and the strangers, his face a mask of cold control. By noon, Temalola's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He's fine. Situation contained. Tae-min. Ji-hoon must have told him to update her. She stared at the message. Situation contained. What did that mean? What had they done? She didn't want to know. But she also couldn't stop imagining. At 6 p.m., when the office had emptied, Ji-hoon finally returned. He looked exactly the same. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect mask. But there was something different in his eyes. Something darker. It's handled, he said. Okay. The people responsible won't be a problem anymore. Okay. He studied her face. You want to ask what I did? No. Liar. She set down her pen. Fine. Yes. I want to know. But I also know that knowing will change things. And I'm trying to figure out if I can handle that change. Ji-hoon moved around her desk, pulling her to her feet. I didn't kill anyone today, if that's what you're worried about. I have people for that. The casual way he said it should have horrified her. Maybe it did. She wasn't sure anymore. But you ordered it, she said quietly. Yes. The people who attacked your warehouse are no longer a concern. His hands tightened on her waist. This is my world, Temalola. This is what I do. I protect what's mine, and I punish people who threaten it. That includes you now. I don't need protection. Yes, you do. Because dating me puts a target on your back. Those men this morning, they were assessing whether to use you to get to me. If Tae-min hadn't convinced them you were off limits, they might have tried. The words hit her like ice water. They were going to kidnap me? Possibly. That's how this works. We find weaknesses in our enemies and exploit them. You're my weakness now. She should leave. Should run. Should do anything except stand there letting him hold her. Instead, she asked, what did Tae-min tell them? That touching you would start a war I wouldn't stop until everyone involved was dead. And that I don't bluff. And they believed him? They know my reputation. His voice was soft, deadly. Everyone knows what happens to people who hurt what belongs to me. I don't belong to you. Don't you? The question hung between them, heavy with truth they both knew. This is insane, she whispered. Yes. I should quit. Probably. I should run far away from you and your world and never look back. Yes. His forehead pressed against hers. But you won't. How do you know? Because you're still here. Because you texted me 3 times today to make sure I was okay. Because you're holding on to me right now like you're afraid I'll disappear. She was. Her hands were fisted in his jacket, knuckles white. I'm terrified, she admitted. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. What if I can't do this? What if it's too much? Ji-hoon pulled back enough to look at her. Then you tell me, and I'll let you go. I won't chase you. Won't contact you. I'll make sure you're safe and set up somewhere far from my world. Because as much as I want you, I won't trap you in darkness. The sincerity in his voice broke something in her chest. I don't want to go, she said. Then stay. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. He kissed her forehead. Stay or go. Choose. She chose. 3 days after the warehouse incident, Temalola met Ji-hoon's world face to face. It started innocently enough. Ji-hoon had a business dinner at an upscale restaurant in Itaewon. Usually, she wasn't invited to these. Usually, he kept that side of his life carefully separated from her. But this time, he asked her to come. Why? She'd questioned that afternoon in his office. Because the people I'm meeting need to see you. See me. See that you're under my protection. That you're not just an employee. His expression was unreadable. It's a message. To who? To everyone. So now she sat in a private dining room in the back of a restaurant that didn't have prices on the menu, wearing the black dress Ji-hoon had sent to her apartment that morning. It fit perfectly, obviously tailored, probably cost more than her monthly rent. Across from her sat 4 men who looked like they'd stepped out of a crime thriller. Expensive suits. Hard eyes. The kind of stillness that came from controlled violence. Ji-hoon sat at the head of the table, every inch the king surveying his court. Tae-min was to his right. The other men had been introduced with names she immediately forgot, too focused on their cold assessment of her. So this is the famous assistant, one of them said in Korean. He was older, scarred, with gray streaking his hair. The one who has our Ji-hoon wrapped around her finger. Hyungnim, Ji-hoon said, voice carrying warning. What? I'm being complimentary. The man. Hyungnim apparently meant he outranked even Ji-hoon. Smiled at Temalola. It didn't reach his eyes. You must be very special. Our Jihoon never brings women to these meetings. I'm just here to observe, Temalola said carefully, her Korean passable if accented. Observe. Hyungnim laughed. You speak Korean. Good. That makes things easier. He leaned forward. Tell me, Miss Davies, what do you observe about this gathering? It was a test. They all were watching her now. Temalola glanced at Jihoon, but his expression gave nothing away. She was on her own. I observe, she said slowly, that this isn't actually a business dinner. That you're here to discuss territory and distribution and things that aren't written in contracts. I observe that you're testing me to see if I'm a liability. And I observe that you've already decided I am, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. Silence fell over the table. Then Hyungnim laughed, a real laugh this time. Sharp. I see why you keep her, Jihoon. She's sharper than most of my executives, Jihoon said, something like pride in his voice. But can she be trusted? This from another man younger, with a jagged scar running down his jaw. Women talk. Women share. Women become problems. Careful. Jihoon's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're talking about someone under my protection. I'm talking about security. We've all seen what happens when pillow talk reaches the wrong ears. Taemin shifted uncomfortably. The tension in the room ratcheted up several degrees. If Miss Davies were a security risk, Jihoon said, each word precise as a blade, she wouldn't be breathing, let alone sitting at this table. I've vetted her more thoroughly than I've vetted most of you. She knows what she knows because I chose to tell her. And she's here because I wanted you to understand something very clearly. Which is? Hyungnim asked, genuinely curious now. That she's not a weakness to exploit. She's off limits. Completely. Anyone who even thinks about using her to get to me will face consequences that make the warehouse incident look gentle. The warehouse incident. Temalola felt her stomach turn. She tried not to think about what that phrase meant. About the situation contained text from Taemin. Strong words, Scarface said. Not words. A promise. Jihoon's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once. Test it if you want, but I'd suggest reconsidering. Hyungnim studied them both for a long moment. Then he raised his glass. To new alliances, then. And to Jihoon finally finding someone who can handle his shit. The tension broke. Everyone laughed, drank, and the conversation shifted to actual business, shipments and territories and percentages. Temalola listened, understanding more than she wanted to. They were discussing drugs. No euphemisms, no coded language. Just casual discussion of product quantities and distribution channels and profit margins, like they were talking about legitimate imports. Jihoon's hand stayed linked with hers under the table the entire time, grounding her, reminding her she'd chosen this. When dinner finally ended, the men filed out one by one, each bowing to Jihoon with genuine respect. Hyungnim paused by Temalola's chair. You love him, he said in English, surprising her. Don't deny it. I've been in this life 40 years. I know what that look means. He smiled, and this time it was almost kind. Love is dangerous in our world. It makes us weak, makes us vulnerable, but it also makes us human. He glanced at Jihoon. Don't let him forget he's human, Miss Davies. This life has a way of burning that out of us. Then he was gone, and she was alone with Jihoon and Taemin. I'll bring the car around, Taemin said, tactfully disappearing. Temalola stood on shaky legs. That was horrifying, illuminating, more than you bargained for. All of the above. She faced him. You discussed drug trafficking over Galbi like you were planning a corporate merger. Because in many ways it is. People die from what you distribute, Jihoon. Yes. No apology. No justification. Just acknowledgement. How do you live with that? He was quiet for a moment, adjusting his cufflinks with careful precision. By telling myself that if I don't control the distribution, someone worse will. Someone who cuts product with poison. Someone who targets schools. Someone without rules. And you have rules. I do. No children. No forced addiction. Product gets tested for safety. Dealers who violate those rules disappear. He looked at her. Does that make me a good person? No. But it makes me better than the alternatives. That's the math I live with. Temalola sank back into her chair. This is really your life. Yes. And you want me in it anyway. I want you despite it. Maybe because of it. He knelt in front of her, hands on her knees. You're the only clean thing in my world, Temalola. The only person who looks at me and sees something worth loving instead of something to fear or use or destroy. I do fear you sometimes. Good. You should. His thumbs traced circles on her knees. But you're still here. I'm an idiot. You're brave. There's a difference. She laughed, though it sounded slightly hysterical. Brave. Right. I'm sitting in a restaurant where crime bosses just discuss their empire over dinner, and I'm supposed to just… What? Be okay with it? No. You're supposed to decide if you can live with it. If what we have is worth the darkness that comes with it. What if I can't? Then I'll let you go. Tonight. Right now. I'll set you up somewhere safe, make sure no one from my world ever touches you, and you can pretend you never knew me. The offer was genuine. She could see it in his eyes. He would let her go, would protect her even in leaving, which made staying somehow easier. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. Temalola, I'm terrified. I'm morally compromised just by being here. And I have no idea how to reconcile loving you with hating what you do. But I'm not leaving. He pulled her forward, kissing her with something that felt like desperation, like relief, like fear. You're going to ruin me, he murmured against her lips. You've said that before. I mean it more every time. Outside, Seoul's nightlife hummed with energy. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the darkness that existed alongside them. And in a private dining room, a crime boss held the woman he loved and wondered if love was enough to balance the weight of his sins. Temalola wondered the same thing. Neither had an answer. The nightmare started at 2:47 a.m. Temalola woke to her phone vibrating violently on the nightstand. Jihoon's name flashed on the screen. She answered, still half asleep. Hello. Where are you? His voice was sharp, controlled panic underneath. Home. In bed. Where else would I be? Lock your doors. Now. Don't open them for anyone except me or Tae-min. She sat up, suddenly fully awake. What's happening? Just do it. I'm sending someone to your building. They'll be outside your door in 5 minutes. Don't let them in, but know they're there. Jihoon, you're scaring me. Good. Be scared. Stay scared. Stay inside. A pause, then quieter. I'm coming to you as soon as I can. Just please. Lock the doors. The line went dead. Temalola stumbled out of bed, checking locks she knew were already secure. Front door. Balcony. Windows. Everything was locked, but she checked twice anyway. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number with a photo attached. Her stomach dropped. It was a picture of her apartment building, taken from across the street. Recent. She could see her living room light on through the window, her shadow moving inside. Someone had been watching her, was still watching her. Another text arrived. Pretty bird in a cage. Does she know what happens to birds who fly too close to dragons? Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. Before she could respond, another message came through, this time from Tae-min's number. I'm outside your door. 2 more men are in the lobby. You're safe. Don't respond to unknown numbers. She moved to the peephole, saw Tae-min's familiar silhouette in the hallway. He was armed. She could see the gun in his hand, held low and ready. This was real. This was actually happening. She sank onto her couch, pulling her knees to her chest. The unknown number sent another message. Tell Jihoon the Busan group sends their regards. Tell him we're just getting started. Her phone rang. Jihoon again. Did they contact you? He demanded. Yes. Photos. Messages. They know where I live. She heard him curse in Korean, followed by shouting at someone else. Then, I'm 10 minutes away. Tae-min is outside. Yes. Good. I'm bringing you to my place tonight. Tomorrow we're moving you somewhere safer. I'm not leaving my apartment. Yes, you are. This isn't negotiable. His voice softened slightly. Please, Temalola. They've already killed 2 of my people. I can't. I won't let them take you too. The fear in his voice decided her. Okay. Pack a bag. Essentials only. We leave as soon as I get there. She packed mechanically, clothes, toiletries, laptop, important documents. Her hands had stopped shaking, replaced by a numb efficiency she recognized from high-stress work situations. This was just another crisis to manage. Just another problem to solve. Except this crisis involved people who killed for territory and used girlfriends as leverage. Jihoon arrived in 8 minutes, not 10. She heard him in the hallway, his voice low and urgent as he spoke with Tae-min. Then her door burst open. He'd somehow gotten a key, and he was there, slightly disheveled, eyes wild with something she'd never seen before. Raw, unfiltered fear. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her against him, hands frantically checking for injuries. "I'm fine," she said. "They just sent messages." "Just messages." He laughed bitterly. "They sent photos of your apartment. They know what floor you're on, which window is yours. That means they've been surveilling you for days. How did they even know about me? Because I brought you to that dinner. Because I introduced you to my world. Because I was stupid enough to think I could keep you and keep you safe." He pulled back, cupping her face. "This is my fault. Stop it. It's true. You were invisible before. Just another assistant. But I had to claim you publicly. Had to show everyone you were mine. And now you're a target." Temalola grabbed his wrists. "I chose this. I chose you. That makes it my fault too. You didn't choose death threats. Didn't I? You told me what you were. I stayed anyway." She held his gaze. "So we deal with it. Together." Something shifted in his expression. The fear didn't disappear, but it crystallized into something harder, more dangerous. "Together," he repeated. "Which means you follow my security protocols. No arguing." "What protocols?" "You move into my penthouse until this is resolved. You don't go anywhere alone. Tae-min or another guard is with you at all times. You vary your routes, your schedules. You become a prisoner. Become safe." His voice was steel. "I'm not losing you to prove a point about independence." She wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle herself. But the photos on her phone and the armed guard in her hallway said otherwise. "How long?" she asked. "Until the Busan group is handled." "Handled how?" His jaw clenched. "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do. If I'm in this, I'm fully in. No more protecting me from reality." Ji-hoon stared at her for a long moment. "Then, we're going to war. Not metaphorical business war. Actual war. Territory. Resources. Blood. It ends when they're destroyed or we are. How long does something like that take? Weeks. Maybe months. And I'm supposed to live in your penthouse like a princess in a tower for months? If that's what keeps you alive, yes." She pulled away from him, pacing to the window. Below, Seoul glittered with oblivious nightlife. "I can't do that. I can't just hide and wait while you, what? Kill people. Destroy an entire organization. What's the alternative? Let them use you to get to me. Let them hurt you to make a point." He moved behind her, arms circling her waist. "I've done terrible things, Temalola. Things that keep me awake at night. But losing you would break something in me that can't be fixed. So yes, you'll hide. You'll accept security. You'll let me protect you. Because I'm not strong enough to survive your death." The raw honesty in his voice shattered her protests. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'll follow your protocols. I'll move into the penthouse. I'll accept the guards." She turned in his arms. "But you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't shut me out. Don't try to protect me by keeping me in the dark. If I'm going to be part of your life, I need to actually be part of it. Not just the clean parts." He hesitated, and she could see the war in his eyes. The instinct to protect versus the need to be honest. "I promise," he said finally. "No more shadows." They left her apartment at 3:30 a.m., flanked by Tae-min and 2 other guards. The drive to Ji-hoon's penthouse took 15 minutes, but they took a deliberately circuitous route, doubling back twice to ensure they weren't followed. In the elevator up to his place, Ji-hoon held her hand so tightly it almost hurt. "I'm going to end this," he said quietly. "Whatever it takes." Temalola looked at their intertwined fingers and wondered what, whatever it takes, would cost them both. She suspected she'd find out soon enough. Ji-hoon's penthouse became a fortress overnight. By morning, 6 armed guards rotated shifts in the hallway. Security cameras covered every angle. The windows, bulletproof, Tae-min informed her casually, were now fitted with additional sensors. Even the elevator required biometric access. Temalola stood in the kitchen at 6 a.m., making coffee she didn't want, trying to process her new reality. Ji-hoon emerged from his office where he'd been since they arrived. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, the dragon tattoo on full display. "You should sleep," she said. "Can't. I have people arriving at 7. People. Strategy meeting. We're accelerating our response." He poured himself coffee, drained half the cup. You should stay in the bedroom while they're here. No. His eyes snapped to hers. Temalola, you promised. No more shadows. If you're planning a war, I want to hear the plan. These men are dangerous. So are you. I'm still here. She crossed her arms. I'm not hiding in the bedroom like a kept woman while you discuss my safety. Either I'm part of this or I'm not. He stared at her, jaw working. Finally, fine. But you don't speak unless spoken to. Some of these men are old school. They won't react well to a woman at the table. Noted. At 7 sharp they arrived. 6 men, all carrying the same controlled violence Ji-hoon did. Tae-min was among them, along with Hyung-nim from the restaurant. The others were new faces, harder, older, scarred by decades in this life. They filed into Ji-hoon's dining room, which had been transformed into a war room. Maps of Seoul spread across the table. Photos of buildings, people, vehicles. A laptop displayed what looked like surveillance footage. When they saw Temalola, every conversation stopped. She stays, Ji-hoon said before anyone could object. She's the reason we're having this meeting. She should hear what we're planning. Hyung-nim shrugged. Your house, your rules. They sat. Temalola took a chair against the wall, deliberately separate from the table. Observing, not participating. The Busan group hit 3 more locations last night, Tae-min began, pulling up surveillance footage. A distribution point in Gangnam, a warehouse in Songpa, and they burned one of our clubs in Hongdae. Casualties. Ji-hoon's voice was flat. 4 dead, 7 injured. They're escalating. Because they know I care about something now. Ji-hoon didn't look at Temalola, but everyone understood the implication. They're trying to draw me out. Make me sloppy. Is it working? Hyung-nim asked bluntly. Yes. No hesitation. Which is why we end this now. Fast and final. One of the older men leaned forward. You're talking about hitting their leadership directly. That breaks protocols. They'll retaliate against families, civilians. They already threatened a civilian. Ji-hoon's hand clenched on the table. They sent photos of my girlfriend's apartment. Threatened her directly. They broke the protocols first. Then we respond in kind, Hyung-nim said calmly. We know where their second-in-command lives. Where his daughter goes to school. No. Ji-hoon's voice cracked like a whip. No children. No families. We're not them. Then how do we hit hard enough to end this? Silence fell. Temalola watched them grapple with an impossible problem. How to wage war without becoming monsters. Their money, she said quietly. Every head turned. I said don't speak, Ji-hoon warned, but his tone was more concerned than angry. You want to end this fast? She stood, moving to the table despite the hostile stares. Hit their money. Criminal organizations run on cash flow. Disrupt that, and everything collapses. We can't just rob their accounts, Tae-min said. They're not stupid. Money is protected, distributed. Not the accounts. The sources. She pointed to the map. They're moving product through Busan port, right? That's what the warehouse raids were about. Disrupting your supply lines while protecting theirs. Ji-hoon's eyes narrowed. You're saying we hit the port. I'm saying you don't just hit it. You expose it. Anonymous tip to customs about irregularities. Let the authorities shut down their smuggling operation. They lose their supply chain, they lose their income, they lose their war funding. That brings heat on all of us, one of the men objected. Temporary heat. But if you structure the tip carefully, target specific shipping containers, specific dates, you can make it look like routine inspection that just happened to find something. She looked at Ji-hoon. You keep telling me you're better than the alternatives. Prove it. Win this without becoming them. Hyung-nim laughed suddenly. She's vicious. I like it. It could work, Tae-min said slowly. If we coordinate the tip with simultaneous hits on their distribution centers, they're caught between law enforcement and us. Nowhere to run. Ji-hoon studied the map, calculating. We'd need perfect timing. If the customs raid happens too early or too late, they'll know it was us. I can handle the timing, Temalola said. Give me access to their shipping schedules and I'll find the perfect window. How would you even get their schedules? She smiled grimly. I'm very good at finding information people want hidden. It's literally what I do. The men exchanged glances. Then Hyung-nim slapped the table. Let her try. Worst case, we fall back to the original plan. Best case, we win clean. Clean is relative, Ji-hoon muttered, but he was nodding. Fine. Temalola handles the intelligence. Taemin coordinates the physical response. I want teams ready to move the moment customs enters that port. The meeting continued for another hour, plans crystallizing into actionable steps. Temalola provided logistical input, drawing on 3 years of managing complex operations. The men gradually stopped looking at her like an intruder and started treating her like a strategic asset. When they finally left, Hyungnim paused by her chair. You're wasted as an assistant, he said. I'm exactly where I should be. He smiled. Maybe so. When they were alone, Ji-hoon pulled her into his office and closed the door. That was incredibly stupid, he said. That was strategic brilliance. You put yourself in front of 6 killers and suggested a plan that could get you killed if it fails. It won't fail. You don't know that. She moved closer, pressing against him. Neither do you. But you're going to try anyway, because that's what you do. You calculate risks and make impossible choices. Well, now I'm making them with you. He kissed her hard, desperately. If anything happens to you, it won't. If it does, I'll burn their entire organization to ash. Every single person. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She absolutely believed him. Then we better make sure my plan works, she said. Our plan. Our plan, she agreed. 3 days. That's how long they had to gather intelligence, coordinate with customs, and position their people. 3 days to end a war before it consumed them both. Temalola sat at Ji-hoon's spare laptop, cracking shipping databases with techniques she'd learned in university and probably shouldn't admit to knowing. Ji-hoon worked beside her, making calls, moving pieces on his criminal chessboard. They worked until dawn, fueled by coffee and desperation. And when Temalola finally found the shipping schedule, container numbers, arrival times, cargo manifests that didn't quite match the official records, she felt a dark satisfaction that should have scared her. It didn't. Maybe she'd already crossed too many lines to find her way back. Or maybe, she thought as Ji-hoon kissed her forehead and called Tae-min with the information, she'd never wanted to go back at all. All right, my incredible viewers, if you got value from this, leave a like, subscribe so we can grow together. See you in the next one.